Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. So today we actually have an experiment for you guys, but it's in the Can We Survive the Moon setting. So let's get started. Alright, so what we want to try today is actually test out to see if we can tether a drill ship for drilling purposes. So that may sound a little wonky or weird, but basically we've always been doing these drill systems with pistons, rotors in this series, where you could just manually, or you could automate it too, to kind of like drill down and grab whatever you can, but not a lot of motion, so just straight down in this case, right? So I wanted to see how we can combine maybe a drilling ship or a mining ship, as we could just bring a ship, a small grid ship, a large grid ship, going down here and grab what we can grab. I think here's gold, specifically like that. Which a mining ship is usually easier to grab these slivers of ores and resources. Otherwise, you put like a hinge, a rotor, custom turret controllers, and everything like that to kind of try to maneuver and grab it. So getting a drill ship is easier than doing a stationary piece. But what if we combine the two, which is pretty much tethering a drill ship onto the base to see if we could collect ore that way a lot quicker. So the idea initially was using the concept of the hinge chains, is what I kind of coined, I guess. I mean, could be coined by somebody else the same name, but I've always called it a hinge chain. So basically, with this concept, we put the same station, right? So piston going up, piston going forward with the rotors as well. So here's another rotor, and then we try to convert it into a small grid and put in some small rotor hinges, and we did it the chain style, so it's one opposite the other. So it's going to be facing left right, facing forward backwards, facing left right, all the way down here into this little drill ship here. So I should have put it towards the back, but I kind of did it like that for whatever reasons. This thing has a gyroscope, a cockpit, and 2 drills. So basically, also a bit of a thruster as well. So ideally it had thrusters for all sides, but there was an issue when I initially tested this, so let's see what happens again. But the concept is to basically get a small ship like this with thrusters, bring down the pistons, then I can easily maneuver and grab what we can grab, like nickel right here, or whatever resources, and we don't have to go up and down with our connectors to swap it into the cargo containers. I was hoping we could just tether it into this hinge chain like thing and be able to fly a ship easily to get that. But unfortunately, it looks like that might not be the case. So right now it is currently on a dampener off situation, but when I turn it on with that one thruster, it really freaks out. But let me get rid of the thruster first, and I'll turn dampeners on and off. It doesn't make a difference. But with the gyroscope, I'm able to maneuver it like this a bit, but I can't go forward. So that doesn't really help. It does a decent maneuverable piece to it. So basically, I could just go in circles if I want to drill this way. As you can see here, it's working okay, but not much direction in terms of accuracy and grabbing what I need to grab. And it becomes very, very wiggly, because also I didn't mention this, but all these hinges and these rotors do not have any torque on them whatsoever. And if they did, it would be minimal. Now, the biggest issue, and was hoping that this would work out, is to plop on some thrusters so we can move forward, backwards, and all that jazz, right? Because it makes sense so that we can do it that way. But if I throw in any thrusters, let's just say for an example, right here. So you have your up, down, left, no, forward, backwards, left, and right. So I'm trying to get one each in each direction. Hop on in. And if I turn dampeners on, this happens. So the thrusters do not like the hinge change. So it just acts really, really crazy. Right, so as you see here, it just spins around in circles and circles, trying to fix itself, trying to find its right way around, basically. And there's no controlling this thing at all. So if I want to fly forwards, I mean, I guess you could kind of fly forwards a bit, but not really. So that's the problem we have when we put thrusters on a tethered ship like this. But if we turn off dampeners, then it'll settle down a little bit, which is good. And if we really wanted to maneuver from here, we can. So if I want to go forward, I can fly forward ever so slightly. But once I let go, it's not gonna stay like that and situate itself. It's just gonna, you know, because dampers are off, it's gonna put me back down. So a little bit hard to control in this case, unfortunately. But it doesn't necessarily work as well. Putting gyro override on doesn't really help either. It just makes it go even crazier like that. Okay, that's dizzying. But yeah, also on a ship that's tethered with hinge chains, definitely a no-go in this case. So that thing is just gonna freak out and stay like that for quite a bit, unfortunately. So the concept of having it tethered does not work. At least not like this. Alright, we'll just turn that off. And that's with small grid hinges too. And that's, again, offsetting each hinge opposite from one another. Okay, so instead of doing small grid, we try it with large grid only. Because that could be the reason why it's freaking out, right? Potentially. So we have everything here in a large grid format, as you see here. Has thrusters each side, a gyroscope, and a tether of the hinge change. But this time, not alternating one another. But unfortunately, it looks like I did have the hinges move in the opposite direction of each other, which might be an issue, maybe. But if they have no torque, it doesn't even matter anyway. So, more about maneuvering this ship right over here. So in this case, we have it dampeners off as well. Because if we turn it on, this happens. So a little bit of motion going on here. It's a lot better than the small grid hinges. A little bit better in control. And our gyroscope, which not sure why I don't have it on my 2-bar. If we did override here, we start to kind of lift up for some reason. So it's not really working as planned, but it's a little smoother. It's a better control of it. But the moment you let go of maneuvering the ship itself, it kind of defaults like this and kind of brings it back up. But can you fly it? Yes, you can in some form or fashion. But in terms of like getting where you need to get to, like if I'm in a pit trying to get forward, it's a bit of a fight to get to it. But we could easily turn and get to where we need to get to a little bit, but not really. You see it's a bit of a fight, but it's not wiggling too bad. So I was thinking this type of tethering would have been perfect, but unfortunately there's some kind of way or something's going on where it's fighting it. So it's just trying to fly up right now by default. And if I want to fly sideways and everything like that, it's possible because it's on a rotor and it should actually spin. I'm not sure why it's not letting me right this moment. And I can fly forward, grab what I can grab. But again, if it wasn't tethered, it'll be easier to fly this ship anyways. So with it tethered like that, it just does some weird action here. So right now it's just wrapping itself around for some reason. As you see here. Makes no sense how that reacts. But yeah, you can't really tether a ship with thrusters on it, which is unfortunate, because that would have been a lot easier for me to get inside a pit, grab the resources on the sides, the slivers of it, and then not have to fly back. Basically just fly within it and just keep grabbing it from there. That would have been awesome, but unfortunately that does not work really well. So what options do we have? So non-scripted version, is your basic kind of drill system that I kind of work with once in a while, which you have the rotor, hinge, piston, and another hinge to kind of get to where you need to get to. And you can mimic it with a small grid ship or a large grid ship, either one. Something like that over here. Not really a ship, but just a drill arm and everything like that. But at least this can kind of work as well. So here's the ship. We have all the controls we can control here. So if I put my first control, I can spin left and right with no issues. And this is all controlled by the mouse as well. And if I want to go forward, I can. That's the biggest piece, right? I go forward this piston like this. But there's a reason why I have two event controllers, right? So one event controller is to go left and right like this. And then up and down from the ship end. But if I cancel that out and go to my other event controller, by event controller I meant custom turret controller. So I'm on, so I'm on the second custom turret controller, and that's the top one on the piston end. So I can bring it up this way, switch to the other custom turret controller, straighten it out like this, and then I can extend my piston this way and also use my drill in this sense. So that gives us some control of how to gather stuff in the sense of the slivered resources on the sides. So if we get down there deep enough, is a big enough hole, we can easily do something like that. But you can also start by straightening everything out first, like so. So we can straighten the first hinge out, and then this one will straighten out as well, just to go straight down. And then when we're ready to gather more resources, or gather sliver of resources, we could just throw event controller right here, move up a little bit like this, and then down with the piston. So there's some control here. So unfortunately, you can't link up two hinges on one single custom turret controller, so you gotta separate them. So unfortunately, you gotta hit the first custom turret controller, hit F or to back out of it, then hit 3 for the second one, or whatever number you're gonna place it in. But here is as much control as we can get out of this, although I'm not a big fan of the whole view and everything like that. But this kind of works out in terms of getting what we need to get, and using a bit of a ship or drill arm to get that side resources as easily as possible. And it's technically, in a way, tethered ship, but it's more of a drill system more than anything else, because you can mimic the same concept here, which is just one drill, a hinge, piston, and hinge, right? So we don't even necessarily need to be on a ship in that case. As long as we can view it, that's perfect. And if we had the custom turret controller on here, we could just bend this thing up and down, bend this thing up and down, turn this and that to move. So it's the same concept as the little ship there. The custom turret controller is here. Here's the first hinge right over there, where I can spin it like this. Back out of it, go to the other one, and then that's the elbow arm over there. Well, I guess you call that the elbow, and the bottom one the wrist, in a way. So you can, again, go straight down like this. Have enough room. Get my wrist up a little bit like so. To gather what we need to gather. And then if we make enough room for us to go even further down like this. And then extend the piston forward. Then that can work. So there's a bit of control there. I mean, you can put multiple custom turret controllers and keep backing out of it and pressing the buttons to get it all working. That's basically what you can do as a drilling rig or a drill system, rather than putting a ship on it, like so. But if you want to be up close and personal in terms of grounding resources, this is a good bet too. And I didn't even realize, but I did actually have thrusters on this thing, which it doesn't really necessarily do much. But it's just there for whatever reasons. So even turning them on, it really doesn't do anything. Well, everything has torque anyway, so it's not going to lift up any shape or form. But yeah, you can't do anything with this unless you turn the event controls on. So instead of all that, where we have the failed small grid hinge chain and also the large grid hinge chain, which didn't necessarily work as well, your best bet would be to kind of continue to create the drill system with, you know, your elbows, your wrists, and your piston in that case. But if you want to go further than that with the script, and it's one of my favorite scripts that I love using for a long time now, which is the Cockpit, Piston, Rotor, and Hinge controller. So this thing is one of the best scripts that I enjoy using a lot. And basically, you could use groupings too, so you can control multiple hinges, rotors, pistons, whatever the case is. And you can use your your WSAD for movement, Q and E, space, and C, and then your mouse Y and X axes. And you can change the different acceleration rates and everything like that. But more importantly, here you put the groupings if you need to. So hinges is all my hinges, and there's one advanced rotor. So this script is very powerful. It works really well for a lot of things like a crane, which I usually build a crane with. But in this case, if we really, really want to go to the fact of having more mobility instead of having to hit custom turret control 1, back out of it, hit 3, or custom turret control 2 to make all that motion, put on the script, and that will be able to maneuver all this. So more importantly, the hinges all got to be in the same direction. So you can just use this little notch here on the large grid to make sure that they are all facing the same direction. And then I put a helm right here in the same kind of aspect of the first one. So let's just say or pretend that this is the ship right here, and then connect it with a piston, because that's the only way to really go forward in this case. Or at least straighter. So with this done, or with the script done, I did Q and E for my piston, so I can extend it and retract it easily with the buttons there, or the keys. And then, more importantly, the hinges, which is on WS up and down, this is what happens when you tap it. So it's not too bad in terms of the mobility of using this type of situation. It's not the greatest, but as you see here, we can use A and D to move left and right, controlling the rotor. And then if we want to go forward or tilt a little bit, we press up and down and we get this far. But we need a massive hole in order to do something like this. And then once we have that done, we can extend our piston and grab the resources on the side. So that's a definite possibility. How likely you would use this? Probably not that practical. So you probably want to reduce the number of hinges, obviously, and have more control like the ones with the custom turret controllers. I mean, instead of using a custom turret controller, use the script, and then you can control both the elbow and wrist together and everything else. But conceptually, putting all these hinges and doing this does kind of work, but as you see here, some hinges are moving while the others are not for some reason. And all of them have a little bit of torque in them anyways. But for some reason, it's just not behaving the best way possible. Oh, maybe it's because this has shared inertia on. Let's just see. Is that the case? I think that might actually be the case. I'm not sure why I had shared inertia on in the first place, but we can kill the torque here and reset just to straighten it out a little bit. All right, so now if we go up and down, this happens. Well, a little bit on the quick side when it's not shared inertia, and it's a little bouncy. But I think that's why I had shared inertia on. So as you see here, again, it's not the best work. It is bouncy. So you definitely want to put shared inertia on so you can control a little bit better. But too bad it doesn't control from the top there. I'm not sure why the top one is not bending. Well, actually, I do know why, because shared inertia, but So this makes it a little bit easier to maneuver. And if we need, again, if we want to go forward to grab those resources, here we go. So that kind of works out and a little bit better with the script. But honestly, just put the script on one of these instead. That one there, the ship, or this drill arm, so that you could just control these two at the same time, going up and down, and then forward as well. So that's basically a random test to see if you could tether a drill ship with hinges, so you have the mobility to collect resources without having to drop them off with the connector and everything like that. And unfortunately, it is a bit of a fail when it comes to actual ship tethering. But of course, if you use custom turret controllers for a drill system, works perfectly fine. And ultimately, adding a script, which would make life a little bit easier in this case. Alright, so I hope you guys enjoyed this experiment with the hinge chain and tethering of a ship or a drill ship. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to drop a comment down below, even to just say hi. And of course, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.